Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live version of the 18 Strong podcast. We've got a couple special guests on here on our show today from Urban Golf Performance. We've got Mac, Todd, and Leo Rooney that we're going to bring in. If you don't know about Urban Golf Performance, it's one of the top-notch facilities. I believe it's the biggest golf performance company out there with several locations. A new location is being built. I do want to say thanks to our sponsors for this episode, Linksole, who is our favorite apparel brand on and off the course for anything golf related. Go over to 18strong.com/Linksole to get your most updated discount code to get anything in your cart for 20% off. You can see I'm always wearing my Linksole cap. Anything on the golf course is always either the Linksole Boardwalk or shorts. Some of their great polos, their dry tech polos are great for the hot weather, which is coming quickly here in St. Louis. All right, let me bring in our special guests for today, Mac, Todd, and Leo Rooney. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Awesome. We had a chance to chat a little, probably about, I don't even know, a month ago, maybe more than a month ago on your podcast, the Urban Golf Performance Podcast. How's that been going, diving into the podcast during this whole crazy COVID situation?
Yeah, no, it's been great. When we had to close down, Mac and I were talking, and we've been, talking about doing a podcast for a while, and we're like, okay, well, now we have some time in this crisis. So we just started one, and we kind of just went off. I think we recorded like 30 episodes in 2 months. It was a little bit unsustainable, but that's how we do things. We just go for it. And then we just had this just amazing conversations with all kinds of people, and it's been great. It more than anything, just connecting with these coaches and therapists and trainers and business people all over the world. So it's been really fun.
Mac,
yeah, really enjoyed it. I mean, industry networking has just been incredible. We haven't really, because like Leo said, we've been in the weeds so far, going from just me as a single operation 7 years ago to then about 40 employees in a few locations in a corporate office. So we've just been getting a pretty prolific investor too. So the last 7 years has just been 100 miles an hour. So just, servicing clients and growing our staff. So to get out there digitally and connect with all these different industry leaders has been pretty awesome, and we've learned a lot.
I would have to say that that's been such a gift that I didn't quite expect, having a podcast like this and being able to connect with so many people like yourselves. Mac, who are some of because you guys sent over a list of some of the people that you had interviewed before I came on the show, and I think that was kind of early on. You guys maybe had, 10 episodes or so. Who are some of the incredible guests that you've had on? Because you work with some of these people, or you've connected with them in other ways, but what are some of the bigger names that you've had on the show?
Yeah, we had Doc Rivers, really great conversation with him. Sean Foley, that was a crazy one. We had Colin Morikawa, who's one of our clients, does his fitness with us. One of the, best young stars on tour. That was a great one with his mental coach, who's our director of mental coaching. Had a pretty good list. I mean, we had Rich Beam, who was my assistant pro at my club growing up and, won the PGA in, I think, 2002. So just been, a lot of great conversations, just every range. And then one of my favorite ones actually is a golf coach here in Southern California. His name is Ron Del Barrio. And we haven't released that one yet, but he was Sylvester Stallone's golf coach on the set of Cliffhanger.
No way.
Was his roommate during his peak years. So the stories are really hilarious, and just how people get into the game and how they get into coaching and what their purpose is has just been fascinating.
Now, Leo, you have some radio background, right? So it wasn't like you guys were just jumping off and on a whim starting a podcast. You actually had some legit background behind it.
I guess, I don't know if we can say radio background, but me and my college buddy, Frederick, we started a podcast in college. We came from Sweden, and we came over to this really, private Christian, like Baptist university. And so instead of like doing Skype calls home to our family and friends, we were like, oh, let's do a podcast. And then and that actually ran for like 3 years. we had this weird following. I think a lot of young people in Sweden maybe wanted to know how it was to, as a Swedish golfer, play for a Baptist school with all these weird religious rules. And so we had like segments on the podcast that like went over like the school book rules and things like that, like what you couldn't do and what you could do. Yeah, so I did have a podcast for a couple of years in Swedish, and it was all about the Christian college experience.
That's hilarious. Podcast before people even knew what podcasts were.
Yeah.
So, Mac, I want to know a little bit more about the story on how the UGP came about. You mentioned, you played competitive golf, you then started instructing, but how did it go from where you were and then become this massive thing that it is today? And really, what's behind the name of Urban Golf Performance?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a loaded question. There's so many, so many different ways to tell the story. But, the business started, just to flash forward. I mean, I don't need to tell my whole life story, but the business started with me inside of I got a 300 square foot sublease space inside of a 1,000 square foot mom and pop golf fitness shop across from Rancho Park, which is one of the busiest public courses in the country. And they leased me 300 square feet. I got a $50,000 loan, and I bought a $48,000 simulator and started with $2,000 in operating capital. And within 3 months, I hired my first employee. And then within 9 months, I leased my own building. And then within, I guess, 4 years, I had a team of about 20, and then attracted Blake Mykoski, who's the founder of Tom's Shoes. And he invested a few $1 million and then gave all of his shares to the first tee. So it's been a crazy journey. I bet, Leo, that's the fastest I've ever told that story. I knew you were impressed.
10x.
So going from, in that short span of a time, I mean, did you have any kind of business background or what? And were you just cranking out lessons once you got the simulator up and running, and then needed to bring on another person to take more lessons? Or how'd that work? Because you said it very simply, very succinctly, but that kind of blows my mind with where it started to where it is now.
Yeah, it's I mean, no real business background. I guess really my dad's a public health doctor, and so they processed immigrant visas, all the medical components of getting a medical visa, immigrant visa from Latin America. So watching him kind of that family business, my grandfather started it, and they have 25 doctors working in this clinic, and then they have all these administrative people. There's 100 employees in their business, and they would work seamlessly, radiologists, pediatricians, pulmonologists, and they'd be gathering information about the patient that they could then present to the State Department. And they worked with the consulate, they worked with the government, and there was everything from, I watched everything as a kid, from payment intake to patient interaction with the doctors, to like even watching the legal process and seeing my dad interact with lawyers and statesmen and things like that. So I grew up like having dinners with Mikhail Gorbachev and George Bush, and like seeing these things. And so growing up in that world, or growing up on the border in El Paso and Juarez, and seeing, having that international experience, going across the border, seeing all that commerce and seeing this business, and then, playing golf at a high level, growing up at El Paso Country Club, which is a pretty famous club in West Texas. Ben Hogan got in his car accident after playing in a money game there that was pretty famous. And so it was just life experience, really. I just was lucky to have the dad I have. My mom's an artist, and she had a restaurant when she was 19. So just the entrepreneurial like conversations that were happening in the house, the intellectual conversations in the house. And then, and then I went to play college golf in Boulder at CU. I got into studying psychology and neurobiology, and really got interested in motor learning and things like that. So my life, and then I got kicked off a lot of golf teams. So just sort of the feeling of always wanting to be on a team and have a team. And then combined with sort of what I saw in life and what I was exposed to. I also went to IMG Academy in high school and lived there. So it's just like my life spattered, like it's no kind of business acumen. It was really just sort of a story of my entire life experience. And then I kind of hit a situation in my life where my future wife got pregnant, and I'm like, all right, I got to stop like thinking about getting an MBA or going to get more education or go to med school. I got to just think about what I'm going to do for work. And then I thought about what I would want my life to be like as a father and as a husband, and the kind of autonomy I'd want to have in my lifestyle. And sort of just then came the moment of let's build this thing and let's put a plan together. And simulators were starting to get a lot better 10 years ago, and the technology was getting more mainstream. I've been around since the 80s, working pretty good. I remember my first simulator hitting on it when I was 5 in my house. My dad had this little track you'd hit on it, and Lynx LS would come up on the computer and the ball would fly. And so sort of just like, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of different things led to this, and it's timing. But it really, why it exists is out of necessity to like kind of, give myself a job. And then the vision was much more expansive than that, because I think about how I grew up. I think it became like, all right, it's not just me having a job to teach golf. I'm going to create a community, and I'm going to build a system in which a younger version of myself would thrive in. And that's kind of what I'm seeing more and more every day with people like Leo that have come into the business in their 20s and then been able to like build a career out of it and develop leadership skills and all kinds of things around it. It's been pretty awesome.
Well, I think it just shows kind of the visionary that you are, as far as, being able to look that far ahead. I think most golf pros like yourself initially are like, okay, I need to get, or trainers too, guys in the fitness industry like myself, you go in kind of, all right, I just have to train people, or I have to coach people in order to make a living for myself. But for you to be able to have this bigger vision where you can bring somebody like Leo in, and he can kind of expand and grow his vision as well inside the vision of UGP. I think that's pretty awesome. Leo, can you give us an idea? I know we have a lot of golfers that are listening that may not have seen any of your facilities or really seen what UGP is about. Can you kind of explain a little bit of what the environment is, and even what the facility is that you guys are bringing people into, and why people have latched onto it so much, and how it's such a unique opportunity and experience compared to just going to get another lesson from a golf pro?
Yeah, I think, ever since Max started it, in that first facility in LA, every year we've just kind of gone bigger and better. And it is really Max's relentless drive to always improve. And I think that can be underestimated sometimes with entrepreneurs is, you got to kind of be a little crazy and take a lot of risk. We've taken a lot of risks over the years. And, we feel super grateful and lucky to even sit here with 3 locations and a corporate office and this amazing team, because it wasn't easy. But Urban Golf Performance, our facility is about 7,000 square feet. We have 6 departments under one roof. And so we'll take care of any golfer between Colin Morikawa to a complete beginner. So literally like the whole spectrum of golfers. And what makes it unique is that we, when you pull up from the second you pull up in the parking lot, we come out to you and we talk to you. And we're friends, immediately. And then we take you on this journey in our facilities that is just completely unique to anything else in golf. Like there's, every single part of the experience is designed to make you feel good, to learn golf the fastest way possible, in a very motivating and inspiring way. So we go out to your car, we meet you at your car, we carry your clubs in, and we kind of curate the whole experience depending on the client. So we know a lot about the client already. And then depending on what they want and what they need, we have a whole team helping them. It's not just one person, right? So you have a golf coach, you have a fitness trainer, you have a physical therapist, you have a fitter, you have a builder, and we have a mental coach that can take care of this client. So whatever they need, we got them. And it's a good feeling to go through that experience. And then we spend a lot of time working on our team and making sure that the team can have this genuine experiences with the players. It's not necessarily at the end of the day really about swing technique or the technical part of fitness or whatever it might be. It's about changing people's lives. through the game and through the UGP experience, but we live for the experiences where, someone goes out of back pain and can get back to golf and play again, or, like Colin win on tour for the first time. So it's like we feel very lucky to even be able to work with such a great range of players in all parts of their lives. Like it's a really special thing for us, and we're super passionate about it because we grew it like just organically. It wasn't like we had a bunch of money to start. Like we always grinded, and we always, every single session we did, we reinvested into the business and the facilities, and we painted the walls, and so we feel a lot of ownership in our facilities, and we care a lot. So it's not really work for us. It's like it's a dream, really, and that's what we're trying to do. That's why, we're trying to get a team that feels like that too.
That's something that really resonated with me about you guys, and especially when I came on the show and got to understand more about you guys, and it just felt like we had a lot of similar philosophies going into what this whole thing is about. And I love that you said it's not so much about swing technique or mechanics, but it's about changing people's lives. And I think some people listening to that might think like, oh yeah, right, a bunch of golf guys are kind of overblowing the impact that it has. But I mean, I even read in your bio, Mac, that kind of part of the mission is to help teach people what golf can do. And in that, you say it can improve mental health, inspire community, embrace nature, relish in play, and provide a greater sense of purpose. And, I think some people will think that, that's kind of getting a little woo-woo, but like, where does that come from as far as again, back to your mission and your mentality going into even starting this thing? Because I think that there's a lot more to it than people understand.
Yeah, I think play is really important. I mean, nature, these things, mental health. I remember my dad telling me, my dad's a black and white doctor, at least he was, and he told me when I was younger I was really into psychology. Like I was just very interested in just seeing I had mental health issues in my family, substance abuse, and I would just see everybody suffering around me on both sides of my family. For different reasons. And I was very interested as a young kid. I was like, for mythology to Catholicism to Christianity to just studying like how are people ticking and like what's making them like, why is this so unstable? I thought to myself, I had a pretty stable home, but all around me, my extended family on both sides, there's a lot of suffering. And so I was just very interested in that. And so I told my dad like, about it. And he was like, psychology and, these things, philosophy that you're interested in, they're like pseudosciences, he pretty much said, and it pissed me off. And I remember him kind of saying that he's like, it's really this and that, socioeconomic, and he tried to like intellectualize the entire thing that was going on. I'm like, I think they're suffering internally. I don't know if it's just like constructs of society or all these other things that's having our family suffer. I think they're literally, there's psychological stuff, there's emotional things, and that's what's leading to this kind of generational pain. And I saw that when I was little. And my dad was like, you're sensitive like your mom or whatever, and then flash forward like, 20 years later, 30 years later. And he's like, I was so wrong. He suffered a lot in his life, because of just not seeing that your emotions and your psychology matter. He thought money matters. He thought that, your sophistication matters. Your social status matters. That's what he was so concerned with as a young man. And he was an educated doctor, like super highly educated, Mensa, like genius. My dad's a really smart guy, good looking, like cash, but he suffered so much because he didn't focus on his emotions and his psychology and on his spirit. And so for me, I just, that's been my journey. I've been so interested in the human condition. And, I think a lot of it has to do with seeing, substance abuse in my family and alcoholism and just suffering. And so I think that, whatever it is that you're going to do, whether you're going to start a pancake house or a golf performance space, you're going to build your DNA into it and the things that you care about. So do we have to have it this way? Probably not. But is it a big reason why Blake invested and why I've been super successful? Probably. Is it the right thing for everyone? Probably not. You got to go make your own story. But this has been my story, and this is the way that I've influenced the people around me, and I think it's worked out pretty good.
Tell me a little bit about Blake and the investment and where that all came from. I know a lot of people, listening are probably hoping for some training tips and things like that about, what you guys do, and we'll get into that. But, this is kind of the stuff that fascinates me about, running a business like you are, and why people want to invest and why it's so successful. Because obviously you're bringing in things that just regular golf improvement companies don't typically.
Yeah. So Blake's impact.
Yeah, yeah, and where it came about that he was going to invest in. Why would he want to invest in a golf performance company?
It was a putter fitting.
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, he fell in love with the company. That's all. I mean, at the end of the day, he came in as a consumer. He was referred by one of our members, and that said, "Hey, man, I'll hook you up with a putter fitting and come in and do it." The Dell putter fittings system that they have is pretty sweet, and these guys are really nice guys, and that's pretty much how we get most of our business. And then he came in for a putter fitting and was like, "Oh man," I think we like stretched him out before his putter fitting and like had a nice conversation with him, and he's like, "This isn't a normal putter fitting." And then he started seeing all the departments, and as an entrepreneur, he saw that there was a lot of sophistication in the design of the business itself, the sales process, the how we gain referrals, how we, he was just probably going a million miles a minute, seeing the whole system running. And he had just sold half of Tom's and pretty much, relieved himself of his duties there not that long before, a couple years before. And so he was in a space of sort of entrepreneurial burnout, but also with a shitload of money and thinking about what am I going to do next. And so I think we just caught him at the right time. He came in as a consumer, loved it, had hundreds of millions of dollars, and is young. And kind of also, I think, to be candid, I think Tom's, is very much was built into sort of a woman's brand and a children's brand in a lot of ways. That's like its biggest part of its demographic. And then he started to become a family man, and I think that he saw like all of us like this very kind of masculine brand, and it, in a lot of ways it is. It's the industry and everything like that, and we have a lot of intentions, and we can talk around how we're trying to build more females and build that in, and 10% of our of our staff is female, and about 15% of our consumers, but it's a very masculine brand. And so he kind of, I think that appealed to him a lot. He saw it and he was like, man, I miss my fraternity. I miss my boys. He was a tennis player in college. And so I think he saw that and he wanted to be part of the boys club, and he wanted to be part of the experience of what we were trying to build. And so, yeah, and he's been very influential in it, actually, because in a lot of ways, to be candid with it, I see Leo kind of like, the boys club thing, but in a lot of ways, when you start a business when you're, with your boys, we started it like that, and that was really what it was. It started with my buddies, and then from there, we're like, shit, this is more than just my boys club. This is becoming, this is going to become an institution. And so we started to think a lot more about diversity, inclusion, all these other things. So we've matured a lot over these last 8 years, and Blake has been a big part of that, these last few years, and really kind of helping us refine what we are, who we are, and what we're going to be for the future.
Leo, what do you, as we're talking about kind of defining who you guys are and kind of what the philosophy is in the UGP, what would you say is kind of the either training philosophy or just golf performance philosophy that you guys really embrace that might be a little bit different from what other people have seen or heard?
Yeah, and I want to add to what Mac just said. I think, if just to talk a little bit about like, if there's trainers or instructors or anybody out there listening that are kind of building their own business, I think what we've learned and the way we've built this business, like, just like Blake is an example. He was literally just a $150 putter fitting referral. And so I think a lesson there is like, literally, if you take care of every single client, thinking that it could be worth $3 million, like, if you do that, then you'll grow your business. Like, this is not an industry where you use marketing to get clients. This is an industry where if you create a community and if you care about your clients, they'll send their friends and family, and that's really the only way to grow in an industry like this. Some Instagram maybe today, but at the end of the day, the experience has to be there, and And so you cannot train enough or read enough about how to connect with humans in order to succeed in this. So in terms of our philosophy, that's a really, because we have 6 departments, it's a big question, because it depends on the department a little bit. But overall, our philosophy in the business is truly to make the world a better place. And it sounds like super big and kind of almost ignorant, because we're just a small little golf performance company. But that's the foundation we want to. So whether that's minimizing pain, or getting someone that are too embarrassed to play with their father-in-law to go play and feel confident on the golf course, or teach them how to carry the bag, or how to mark the ball, or where to stand, or how to get Colin Morikawa more hip mobility. Like, it just depends on the situation. But our foundation is always just looking at each individual, in a very kind of specific way, and seeing what they need, and then solving whatever issue they have with a team, not just with one person. So it's all about the team.
Mac, how do when we were talking on your podcast, we kind of discussed how you guys have a team of golf professionals, fitness professionals, but a lot of your instructors come in even more a little bit on the fitness side, kind of like Leo did, I believe. How do you then take them and instill some of the golf, either mechanical stuff or technique stuff, and get them on pace with what you guys are doing? And how do you keep it similar across all of your instructors? That has to be hard as far as kind of keeping your system amongst all these different individuals.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because the way that I look at it, we look at them all as golf performance experts, right? Golf performance coaches. And so whether they're doing the fitness side, or they're doing the PT side, or they're doing the golf instruction side, their whole goal is to improve golf performance, whatever angle they're coming in from. So if someone's coming in from the fitness side, really what boils down to is, for the most part, most every employee we hire played competitive golf. And so I know from some of the best lessons I ever got in my life were my teammates, just like kind of giving me confidence, reinforcing what I'm doing, not trying to reinvent the wheel. Be like, you're good, bro. Your tempo's just a little off. Like, oh, okay, cool. And then I found something, and then now I'm moving the right track. Now I want to practice more. And now I want to work out more. And now I want to compete more. Just because my buddy who won last week is telling me like I'm good and I'm on the right track. So I realized that with golf instruction, something systemically wrong with it is that there's always something wrong with you when you go take a lesson.
Yeah.
And then you got to fix you. And so I was like, that would piss me off, and that's comes from me going to IMG and being a +4 when I went there, and not being able to break 80, because they had to fix me, and they said that ball flight's not going to work. This isn't going to work. That's not going to work. You see what David Goss is doing, you got to copy him. And I'm like, that's a different body type. And so I started like seeing that. And so in building this business, really it was about like having, like Leo said, this team of people reinforcing you. And what I find so interesting, because we got TrackMans and 3D motion plates, and we look like we're ultra technical and sophisticated, and we have the ability to get deep. We do have the ability to get as sophisticated as the rest of them out there, but we know that that's not what makes the cakes. And so we really get into, I was playing the other day with a couple clients actually, and they were like, yeah, UGP, man, where your mind gets strong. And I was just like, fucking awesome. Like, it made me so happy, because they were just like, I learned to score there. I learned to play there. I learned to get confident there. And I had a few clients like saying that to me, they off the cuff. And I just was so nice to not hear, like, that's where I get my alignment in order and I get my swing right. Those things happen at UGP. People do lose a bunch of weight. They get more hip mobility. They get stronger. They get more stable. They get more on plane or whatever. Their club face squares up more. All that stuff happens. But that's not what people talk about when they talk about UGP, which is a huge compliment.
That's huge, because I think that is a major problem with, going to an instructor or even a fitness professional when it's all about the little technique things and all about the little, the little moves or positions and things like that. We were just talking about the guys from the Lost Art of Golf, and they are the ones that have really taught me a lot about, not the whole swing your own swing thing, but understand like who you are as a golfer and what's working for you and what shot are you trying to hit, those kind of things, as opposed to how am I trying to swing the club, right? And so some of those things. How do you, Leo, then how do you guys take some of the fitness stuff and how do you help foster and implement what you guys are trying to do from, a little bit of the mental side, a little bit of the improving your play, but without getting too technical and, because people kind of want a little bit of that golfiness, right, in their workouts and things like that. But also, you guys as the professionals need to know how to balance what they need versus what they want. And how do you guys do that?
Yeah, when I started as a degree in exercise science and was starting my career as a trainer, and I was very influenced by a researcher named Gabrielle Wolf. She was a researcher at UNLV. And she started in the late 90s. She started looking at attentional focus and basically comparing internal focus versus external focus. And she did a lot on golf, which was great. And she saw these big improvements when you were focusing on anything outside of the body. So the further away the focus was, the better. So, for example, the difference between focusing on the club head or focusing on your hands. Performance improved 30-40% if you focused on the club head instead of your wrist movement. And so I thought that was really interesting, read all the books, and that's also big in fitness is, using metaphors, analogies, stories instead of talking about the body or body movement. And I kind of call it like the language of the body. If you want to coach someone, you want to speak the language of the body, and not talking about where your elbow is and this and that, because the brain understands it, but the body doesn't understand it. So if you give analogies of pushing the ground away, the body will understand it because the body has done that before. So it can relate to that cue. And so that affected me a lot, and we've kind of built that into our coaching philosophy. And so in a lot of ways, we want people to get out of their mind over the ball, not to think too much. We want golf performance to be automatic and not too technical and have too many swing thoughts. So that I look at golf performance as we have these 6 departments under one roof, and they're all working towards the same goal. It's all the same thing, actually. Like whether you're in the gym or in the bay or in the treatment room, it's like all golf performance for us. It's just done in different environments and using some different tools. But really, it's the same thing, right? Like you can improve hip mobility and take away pain with a physical therapist, but also with a trainer and also with a golf coach, actually, right? So to me, there's no difference between them. They're just different tools in different environments that help us get to our goal faster. Because if you compare just doing golf lessons, like let's say you take golf lessons now and you don't focus on any of the other stuff, then you'll get progress potentially. But if you then work on your body at the same time, we have seen that you move along probably twice as fast. And sometimes it's the only way to move forward because you hit a plateau and your golf instruction is not enough to move you further. So that's really kind of how we use the different departments at UGP. And sometimes we have to explain and educate why having 5 degrees of internal hip rotation is going to really limit someone in the golf swing. And then when we improve the hip mobility, maybe the golf coach, or maybe they had a golf coach before that said, you got to clear the hips. And if you actually improve that hip mobility in the gym, you might not have to think about that over the ball, because that thought is not going to work, and it makes the whole movement very inefficient. And so through fitness and movement, we can eliminate swing thoughts. And that's one of our goals, is to eliminate all these kind of disturbing thoughts over the ball so that they can improve and perform in a much freer and athletic and more fun way without them thinking too much about the outcome.
Mac, have you found that just by implementing some of these things, getting people in the gym, getting a little more connected with, their muscles and their movement and what their body's doing, has, kind of like Leo was saying, just gives them a little bit more awareness of control of their body, not necessarily like conscious awareness of, the different positions that they're trying to get into, but just a little bit more control of being able to do that stuff without really having to think about it so much.
I think what it does more than anything else, and I kind of said it earlier, is just gives people confidence. Because that's like really what golf's about, confidence. You can be, if you're, your swing could be off, your face could be open at the top. You could have all kinds of things going on. We've seen it so many times. But if you're a confident golfer, like if someone comes to the tee, like I'm a confident golfer, and they can maintain confidence for 18 holes, they typically play pretty good. So like that's, at the end of the day, like getting them more physically fit, more comfortable with their bodies, more comfortable with their way that they move, and they're just like, that's how I do it, and I'm cool with how I do it. That's such a powerful gift in golf and in life.
And I think sometimes when you see a beautiful golf swing like Ben Hogan or Seve Ballesteros, you're like, that's poetry in motion. I kind of look at that like training and getting more familiar with your body is movement proficiency. It's kind of like you're adding letters to your alphabet, but you can't even really speak the language yet. You know what I mean? And in order to write poetry, you have to like really understand the language and have all the letters and being able to write. And so, it's not enough to just like hit some 7-irons on the driving range. Like you need to really, work on it in different environments to get really dynamic and good, and then after a while you can start writing words, and then eventually you can start to really learn and speak the language. But it takes, unfortunately in golf, it takes decades, and that's the great thing with golf, and also the frustrating thing.
I want to get into a couple of the maybe drills that you guys have people do, or maybe homework that you have people do on, what they're supposed to be doing on their own to actually improve some of the skill side of the game. But Leo, before I forget, I want to ask you about, you were a national level table tennis player, right? And I want to know how that impacted you then getting into competitive golf, and what correlations you see between the two, and if that's something that you still to this day utilize when helping to work with clients.
Yeah, I'm looking at Mac. He's like, oh, here we go again.
I struck a chord, yes.
It's pretty impressive when he gets in there.
No, but I'm like super passionate about it. Because I think that table tennis, and all the racket sports really, but table tennis in particular, because you have the paddle really close to your hand, and so you really learn a lot of like face control through the paddle, and then spin dynamics. And the ball looks very similar to golf. It's the same color, and you have a lot of the quick wrist motion. So I think table tennis is one of these sports that I think all golfers should play, because there's no research on it, and I can't prove anything, but I really believe that the hand-eye coordination and the specific, the fact that the paddle is so close to your hand, which is basically the club face when you control the club, I think it will excel your golf performance. And I think all kids should play table tennis if they want to get good at golf. The reason why I say that is just because I played only soccer, soccer, golf, and table tennis. And soccer is a terrible sport for golf. Like, you won't find a lot of good soccer players. We know, like on the golf course, there are some, but it's a lot more difficult. We know how much it matters, like your sports history. Mac has a friend up here in LA who Jorge Campos. He's a great golfer, but he was a goalie, so it's a little bit different. If you're out there running all the time, like it's not preparing you for the movement, and there's very little hand-eye coordination. So yeah, table tennis is definitely something I'm very passionate about, and I think it has a lot of, and also it's the most popular sport probably on tour. A lot of tour players play table tennis, and I think there's a reason for that.
Well, I won't take offense to the soccer player comment because that was what I played my entire life. If I could say one thing as far as relating soccer to golf, and I would agree with you that it's not, as far as the physical demands and what's going on, it's not very similar. But for me, kind of like you said with table tennis, just even as far as like understanding ball control and being able to put different spin on a soccer ball has always kind of helped me visualize a little bit of how a ball comes off of a club face. But other than that, not a whole lot of similarities. Do you know Brian Bradley from Agascu by any chance? Because he is.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever squared off on the table tennis
No.
courts? Okay, I'm going to set that up immediately because he fancies himself the greatest table tennis player in the world of golf. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know Freddie Jacobson is really good, a fellow Swede. The other thing, we had Cameron McCormick on our podcast, and we talked about speed development, and he talked a lot about badminton. And he talked about 80% of the speed in the golf swing is created by the arms and the wrists and the hands. And so he talked about just ripping badminton swings, which I thought was great. So I like those kind of unconventional ways. We like the unconventional ways in general here at UGP, and we're trying to figure out how we can do things better and more efficient.
Yeah, and I'm on the side of, not to shift from table tennis. I'll stay with table tennis if you guys want, but
No, I'm good. We can switch.
I'm the side where it's like, I think that I think any sport's good for golf. I think any sport's good for other sports at the end of the day. People are like, oh, my baseball swing and my tennis swing. I think, it's really, any sport is good for other sports. You're developing coordination. There are some conversations about football. You're going, forward and back, and you're not supposed to rotate. You're going to get clipped, and but really, I mean, billiards is great for golf. Like if you're a great billiards player and you can put spin on that ball and you can get into posture, like bowling is good for golf. I know, I don't want to, darts is good for golf. I mean, anything.
All the bar sports.
Yeah, all the bar sports.
Yeah.
I've met some hustlers and gamblers that they're just good at golf and they just know how to move their hands really fast, and they know how to get their bodies into positions. Even to throw a horseshoe correctly, you've got to have good posture. You got to be in angles, and you got to be able to let your wrist go at the right time and time things up. So letting objects out of your hand and trying to hit targets, and it's very basic. And then being strong and being fast is going to help your golf too. So at the end of the day, stretching is good for golf. So at the end of the day, everyone's trying to say what baseball this, just get out and play and do stuff, and then correlate them and relate them and try to dominate in everything you do.
Yeah, I think it's funny. We tend to go out to the driving range and just hit the same club over and over and over again. But if sports teaches us anything, it's again with soccer, for somehow, some way, you can hit a ball with your foot, 60 yards in the air to a guy that's running down the field and put it within 5 yards of him without thinking about your posture, your technique, your ankle position, all that stuff. And same thing goes with throwing a ball from third base to first, or throwing from first to home, or whatever it might be. But it's kind of funny how we don't think about those things in those other sports or those target sports, but then somehow with golf we get so nitpicky on all these other little things that I think we forget we can't see the forest through the trees, that it's not that one little tree that you need to focus on. It's this bigger picture, and just get out and put yourself in those different situations, right?
That's why I think, Jeff, too, what you're talking about, that's why billiards is so good, or darts, because you're standing still, and then you got to release. And I think that all those other sports are dynamic, and that's why you see these bar sports that it does relate to golf well, because you're under pressure getting one shot kind of thing.
Right. So, Mac, what are some of the things that you suggest to people? Let's say they are going to work on their golf game out at the driving range or the practice facility. What's one of the best ways that they can go about improving without just going out and banging balls? Maybe I'll have you maybe give a suggestion, and then I'll have Leo give us another one that people can kind of take and utilize tomorrow if they went out.
Yeah, it's very simple, actually, and I think that almost every great coach I've ever talked to or great player says this. You gotta play for something. And so you got to practice for something. I think really getting at the way, I have a pretty good short game, and the way people were like, oh, what did you do? And the techniques, I was like, we played this game called Hoot and Scoot in Texas, where you get 5 balls, you have 5 buddies, and you're like, all right, whoever gets 5 points by the end of this thing first wins $10 from everybody. And so it'd be $50, and you're 12 years old. You're like, that's a lot. So you'd have these 5 balls, you'd throw them like on the short game facility somewhere just out in the rough or whatever. Everybody get different variable lies. You have to play it as it lies. And you got to get up and down with your wedge. So you learn to control the belly of the wedge really well. You can get up and down from anywhere. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out how to get the ball in the hole because you don't want to keep losing $10 over and over again. And you're having fun. And you could do it for hours and hours and hours, you know? And so practice, when I can't hit balls for more than 10 minutes anymore. You know, it kind of frustrates me because I need to, but I can't because I get so bored. I'm like, what am I doing it for? What does it really matter? And I run a golf performance company. Every time I play, I'm being judged. So, like, I should have some motivation to go out and practice, but I don't. It's just not enough. What was more was $10 with my buddies. So having a practice environment in which you can have a team around you and you could be like playing against each other and you could have consequences. Doesn't matter what you're practicing. Hey, close to the pin right now on the driving range. Hey, let's do a putting contest. Just make it worth something, because then when you get to the course, you know, that's really what it's about, because there are consequences once you're on a golf course and you're playing with a group of people you don't know. Now you're worried about being embarrassed or whatever. So preparing yourself for those rewards and consequences is the best kind of practice.
I love that. What was it called? The hoot and scoot?
Hoot and scoot. I'm sure it's different names all over the world, you know, but in Texas it's called the hoot and scoot.
I love it. Leo, what about you? What's a suggestion you have for everybody?
Yeah, I mean, usually when I meet a junior and I want to, like, you know, make my impact on their career, that's probably the first thing I say, just like what Mac said, because I think that's why I never really like became a champion golfer. I never really had that like real, you know, champion mindset. Like, I think you cannot replace that. Like, I didn't play for anything growing up, you know. It was never really under pressure. We had games, but that was also what probably got us better. I would say, I mean, there's so many things: randomized practice, gamified practice, practice with intention, you know, mental game. Make sure that your, you know, body moves well. But I think what I would say is, you know, go out and play a lot. I think people spend a little bit too much time hitting balls on the range or focusing on their swing technique. I think the game is played on the golf course, and you need to go out and play a lot. Like, I remember growing up, and, you know, in the summer in Sweden, you know, we only had half a season. So when it was season, we played 36 holes a day. And, you know, lo and behold, you know, we got better without any coaching. Like, so you play the game, you get better. Obviously you hit plateaus, but then, like, it's really about, you know, understanding different lies, playing the game a lot, getting a lot of practice out there where it's played, and because then you get more comfortable out there. I think people spend too much time practicing, and then when they go out in the course, they're like, oh my God, I don't have my alignment, and like the tee box looks different. Like, they're all confused. And then as soon as it goes off the rails, like, it's just like a terrible experience for them. So I think, you know, practice a little bit more like you play, and then when you go out and play, do it a little bit more like in practice if you can. If you know, drop a couple balls on the course, and you'll get more comfortable out there.
If there's one regret I have, is that I didn't play golf growing up, and I didn't have like a group of buddies to just go out to the course. I'm always so jealous when I hear somebody say, yeah, my mom and dad used to just drop me off at the golf course in the morning, and we would just, me and my buddies, we'd go get a couple of sodas and we'd go play, and we'd be like the little golf rats around the club, right? And I'm just picturing almost like the movie The Sandlot, but, you know, with a bunch of kid golfers. And I just think that would be so cool. And that's almost the mentality that us as adults, we need to come back to, is like, just go have some fun with it and play with it and get creative and learn how to hit those shots. And, you know, you got to skull a few to figure it out. But then once you do, you figure it out, as opposed to just going and hitting off the mat over and over and over again and doing the same old thing.
Well, yeah, like our good friend James O said that is an awesome coach here in Southern California. He said it great. Like, we always tried the weirdest stuff as kids. Like, we would go up in the forest and put the ball on the rock, on the moss. Like, okay, now we're gonna hit it through that tree and then land, and then and that created creativity, and we know how important that is. So, just create the wildest and stupidest things, and and actually that's how you like control the face. And so I think there's I don't know many great golfers that didn't grow up like that.
Yeah, and what James also said too, he goes, the reason I'm so good with the wedge is that I've bladed so many balls, and he's like, that's how I know exactly where that thing is, and how to play with it. So it's just really, I mean, it's tough. A lot of the reason urban golf performance is in these urban centers is because it is so hard to get proper practice in the city, wherever you are. And so I remember growing up in El Paso, it's like late in the afternoon at the club I grew up at, the course was empty. I remember I used to have really poor starts, like in tournaments. I'd start off with a bogey, and and then I'd have to come back, and I literally would play the first, second, and third hole over and over again, just to get like the feeling of like our first hole, And so how hard that is to like, to simulate, like right in the city.
Yeah.
You go to these public courses, like go, like you're not allowed to mulligan, it's like, and so really kind of allowing, diversified practice and, like Leo said, getting random and doing unconventional things is something that's pretty hard to do in the city. And so I think that's what I think a big part of why we're successful in the city too.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. We don't have a whole lot here in St. Louis. We don't have a whole lot of facilities where you can go, unless you belong to a private club, where you can go and hit out of a bunker or just go chip and putt and things like that without actually going onto a real course. All right, fellas, before we get into our final questions here on the 18 Strong podcast, I want to ask each of you guys, because I want people to go check out your podcast, I want to ask each of you guys to give us one episode, and we'll be nice, not my episode, but give us one episode that you think somebody should go and listen to, and why. What kind of the message was that you really got out of, maybe a lesson that you learned from this individual that was really cool for you. So Leo, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, that's a hard question, because we did so many in such a short amount of time, and we only have like 12 or 13 released so far, and we got some like really. The thing with our podcast is like we've just invited everyone from our community, so we have some weird guests. Like we have Reed Dickens, who was working under George W. Bush, and then got involved with Marucci Sports, sold that, and now he is in the golf industry with a shaft company. Like just the weirdest and coolest story. And then we have deep philosophical conversations with Sean Foley. We have really funny conversations with Ron Del Barrio. So far I think one that I liked was Lily He. She's a LPGA Tour player who's amazing here in LA, and I was so impressed by her awareness and kind of approach to her career and what she's trying to do. So that was a good one. But we have so many, and it just depends on. We have a wide variety. So if you want to go golf instruction, we had Jamie Mulligan, James O, Sean Foley, Cameron McCormick. Amazing coaches, but then we also have some business focused ones that are really interesting as well.
All right, that was way more than one, but
yeah. I guess let's do Sean Foley if you want to
just kidding.
Crazy with it.
Just kidding. How about you, Mac?
Yeah, since I'm in the mood of being succinct today, Kelly James was probably my favorite one so far, and I think that the reason is just. He's a musician. He plays at all the tour events, and he's done the ring ceremony for the Patriots and for the Warriors. And he's a good friend. And I love how he talks about work ethic. I just identify with that so strongly, and sort of where he comes from, and how he's taken the road less traveled, and how he views the difference between him and Bruno Mars, and how much harder he has to work than him to be successful in his own arena. And I think a lot of people spend so much time comparing themselves to others and then not putting in the work. So I think that's something that I think that almost everyone, even all of us, I got a lot out of it. I'm like, stop comparing yourself to others and put in the fucking work. And so he's just someone that I really got a lot out of that. And I think that everyone else would too.
That's awesome. I love it. In fact, we just had Joe Buck on the podcast, and apparently he and Kelly are really good friends. I didn't realize that. But he said that he was actually in the foursome of who Joe wanted to take, who he'd pick to play a round of golf that we'll get to in a second with one of your questions here.
He's a great guy.
Kelly James is best friends with everyone. like, from Jordan Spieth to Steph Curry to
Right. I'll never forget the first time I saw him on Instagram at one of, he's on the tee box with the band and he's just like free micing it. And it was like, whoa, that dude he's got some talent. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
People have to check out Kelly James if they haven't heard him. All right, boys, it's time for our final questions. You ready?
Yeah, let's
ready.
do it up.
All right. So first up, Mac, Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore?
Happy Gilmore.
Leo?
Happy Gilmore. Surprising answers from us. But my wife loves Happy Gilmore, so it's like it's a great thing.
It's all about his
And
grandma.
I love Adam Sandler. So.
If you could pick a walk-up song to the first tee box, Mac, what's your song?
Picture Me Rollin' by Tupac.
Leo?
This is a hard question for me because I love music so much. One of my favorite songs is Bob Dylan, Hurricane, but it's probably not the greatest walk-up song. So I would probably say like something maybe epic, like a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, or something like that.
Cool.
Actually, I would probably pick Eric Pritz, a Prida song called Emma's Boy. That's probably that would be my walk-up song.
All right, I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, look it up.
Mac, if you could play 18 holes of golf with anyone in the world, could be a past figure, somebody in the present, who would it be, and what course do you want to play?
My 18-year-old son, Sevi, after he wins the U.S. Amateur in his practice round for the Masters. Just kidding. No, I mean, if it's not if it's not family, it'd definitely be my son or my dad kind of thing. Well, but if it was someone that's outside of family, I'd have to play 18 holes with Tiger Woods. I mean, it'd be
Leo?
something really special to watch that guy hit the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say. And I mean, Eldrick had such an impact on me and everyone. So it's just like, he's still my idol. And as a golfer, I mean, you can't come close to that. So that would be the same for me. And I'd like to play Pine Valley. I haven't played Pine Valley, so.
And Mac, where were you going to play?
Yeah, Augusta, no matter who it's with.
No matter who.
Yeah, in springtime.
Good choice. Good choice. All right, and I want to ask you guys, I don't ask this all the time, but I know that both of you guys are very, deep thinkers when it comes to the game and just, the mentality around the game. Is there a book or somebody that has inspired you guys that you would recommend to the 18 Strong audience? Mac?
Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend my mentor's book, Start Something That Matters, by Blake Mycoskie. I think that's a really good book. I think that a lot of times, there's a lot of great books around golf performance, and there's some great information on the science of it and even the psychology of it. But I think that what we need a lot of in this industry is people going outside of this industry to learn, and really studying kind of what other industries are doing. I took a lot from what Mark Zuckerberg did with Facebook and applied it to building this business. Took a lot from Blake. I took a lot from other companies and built them into the ethos. And so I think studying psychology and a lot of aspects of personal and self-improvement and the human condition, I think is going to help you a lot if you're working with humans.
Awesome. How about you, Leo?
I always have a hard time giving one answer, so I'll give you a couple. For coaches, I really think that, Attention and Motor Skill Learning by Gabrielle Wolf is a great one. It is it's not really a textbook, it's an easy read. I just think it's such a universal thing for coaches. And I think that, it's a really important book. If we're going to go into more kind of the psychology of coaching in terms of how to get people bought in and how to, even just get referrals and building your business. I think a book called Switch by Chip and Dan Heath is great. Just talking about how to it's more behavioral change. And then I think motivational interviewing is a great concept that I think coaches can learn from as well. I know that wasn't golf related, but those are my three.
Cool. Motivational interviewing. Who's that by, or what's?
Yeah, so it was developed in the medical world for addiction, And so motivational interviewing is basically asking questions to initiate change and to engage change talk. So it's so interesting, and it's really a deep subject. There's a book called Motivational Interviewing. It's like a textbook, like a real textbook that you get scared looking at. But there's some great ones, like Motivational Interviewing in Fitness and Nutrition is like a more kind of digestible one. But it's really about asking questions instead of telling people what to do. And that's a really simple concept that, like, hey, you need to eat more vegetables. That is not an effective way to change someone's habits. And so it talks more about what questions to ask to initiate change in someone's life. And I mean, that's the most basic foundation in coaching. So yeah, definitely. And Precision Nutrition has great motivational interviewing concepts as well.
Excellent suggestions. All right, Mac, where's the best place that people can find out more about you guys and learn, what's going on with the UGP?
Yeah, our Instagram's pretty good. Urban Golf Performance. We're pretty active on that, kind of keeping everyone up to speed as to what's going on. Go on our website at urbangolfperformance.com. Sign up for the newsletter. We send that out every week. And then our podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify as well under Urban Golf Podcast. You can find us there, or you can just reach out, just give us a call, and connect with us that way too.
Yeah, and that's what's cool. Like, we have this kind of open arm, mentality. Like, anybody can reach out to us and come visit our facility, or set up a call with me or Mac. Like, we have no secrets. Like, we do. I mean, like, we can a couple of secrets. No, but we can tell you whatever we're doing. Like, we're not keeping it from anyone. And so there's nothing special in what we're doing. We're really spending a lot of time and hard work trying to create this experience. And we're just using concepts that's been around forever, but we do it with great detail and intention and effort.
Well, I want to say, and we were kind of talking about this before you guys got on the show, but what you guys are doing has definitely inspired us here at 18 Strong. I can remember one of the first times seeing, I don't know if it was an Instagram post or Facebook or something, even just the logo and kind of seeing the way that you guys do things and the simplicity of the design, but also just the message behind what you're doing has been very inspirational for us here. I love the philosophies that you guys are bringing to the game and outside of the game, taking outside of the game and bringing it into the game too, and really just putting all that out there for guys like us to help, build our own businesses, build our own careers, using you guys as an example. So just want to thank you guys for what you're doing for the world of golf, and thank you for the time of coming on the show today.
Goes both ways, Jeff. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love what you're doing, so it's mutual.
Well, one of these days when the world returns to normal, I would love to get out and check out the facility firsthand, get in there and see what's going on, kind of get the fingers on the pulse there.
Yeah, welcome anytime.
Can't wait to have you, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You got it, guys. Appreciate you too. Talk soon.
Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.